Well, hello, Ian Anderson Gray here from the Confident Live Marketing Podcast Show. I was about to say Academy because that's what you normally say. But on this show, of course, I'm the host of the Confident Live Marketing Podcast and Show. Welcome if you've just joined. If you're watching live, it's great to see you. We're broadcasting across all the interwebs, including YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, LinkedIn Live, and lots more. So it would be great to know if you are where you're watching from. This is just the live segment, and then we'll get on with the main part of the show, which today sounds very doom and gloom. It is. Is Facebook Live dead? What do you think? Is Facebook Live dead? Are you getting frustrated with it? Are you jumping to another platform? Maybe this is to do with Facebook itself or something else. I don't know. Well, it's not all doom and gloom because the answer is no. Facebook Live is not dead. It's just changed. And I think so many of us don't like change, do we? Let's be frank. It means we have to work hard. It means we have to think about our strategy. And so I'm going to be sharing why I think people say Facebook Live is dead. We're going to look at the negatives, and then I'm going to look at what we can actually do about it, the positives, what I'm thinking of doing with my strategy moving into 2022. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So we'll be with you just after this. Hello, Ian Anderson Gray here from the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. This is episode 145. And in this episode, we're talking about, is Facebook Live dead? And we're going to answer that question. Maybe you're finding that the number of people watching you live is going down and down and down, and it's making you depressed. And you're kind of thinking, well, what's the point? What's the point? Well, we're going to have an answer to that. We're going to get really positive as well. We'll talk about the negatives, and then I'm going to lift you up with some thoughts and some positive things. So let's get on with the show, shall we? I think we should.
Welcome to the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Helping you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video.
Optimize your mindset and communication and increase your confidence in front of the camera.
Get confident with the tech and gear.
And get confident with the content and marketing.
Together, we can go live!
Hello. How are you doing today? This is episode 145. Of the Confident Live Marketing Show. How did that happen? 145 episodes. It's mad. Time flies so quickly. Well, in today's episode, we're going to answer the question, is Facebook Live dead? And if you are watching live or watching the replay, let me know what you think. It's a kind of controversial question, I know. You could even argue a bit clickbait, but the thing is, a lot of people have been saying this to me. I've seen a lot of comments, a lot of people getting depressed about this, and I thought it's about time we talk about this. I've actually been thinking about this for a long time, and it's only really been this week that I realized I've been thinking about this for a long time, if that makes sense. So that's what we're talking about. David Bain is watching in the house. I love this comment. It just makes me laugh. It says, I'm more on YouTube now, as he comments on Facebook. Yeah, so commenting on Facebook, not YouTube. But yes, so something I'm going to be talking about. And Tim Sawn is in the house. Great to see you, Tim. Hope you're doing well. Greetings from across the pond. And we've got watching on YouTube. Thank you, Hardboiled English with Teacher Paul. Great topic. Facebook is a confusing environment. Yes, I think every platform has its confusing element, but Facebook is definitely there in that department. And Tim is saying, been spending a lot more time on LinkedIn lately. I think we all have our favorite places. And Paul is from Vancouver, Canada. One of these days, I will get over to Canada. I'm hoping we will. Beautiful country. I hope you're doing well over there. Well, we're going to dig straight into this topic. Let's go through some of the actually, before we do that, there's always something I forget. Just a couple of things before we get into the main topic. And if you're watching live, let me know your thoughts about this. Just want to let you know about next episode. Next episode, which will be next Tuesday if you're watching live, or it will be next Friday if you're listening. I'm doing a comparison between OBS Studio and Ecamm Live. It's been a while since we've done a tech-based episode, so I'm going to be looking at the difference between those two live video tools, because OBS Studio is free, it's cross-platform, it works on PCs and Macs, whereas Ecamm Live only works on Macs and it's paid. So, which one's better? Let me know what you think. I definitely have my thoughts, but I'm not gonna try not to be biased at all with that, and focus on what I think. In the episode, I'm going to be going through those. Other thing is my newsletter. I have rebooted my newsletter after a long time not doing anything with this. So if you would like to get the latest tips and thoughts and news in the live video and podcasting world, then you need to subscribe to my newsletter. It's completely free. Just go to iag.me/newsletter. There is, basically, it gets posted out every single Friday. So if you're watching live, just do it now and you'll get tomorrow's newsletter. So yeah, enough of that. So there we go. All right, so lots of comments coming through. I will get back to those comments in a little bit, but I want to get straight into this topic. Now, these are my reasons why I think people are saying Facebook Live is dead. Now, I don't necessarily agree with all of these, but there's an element of truth in all of these things. Bit of background. Facebook Live is how I got into live video in the first place. I remember Google Hangouts on Air. This was Google Plus's thing. And I remember being asked to go on a show. I was absolutely petrified. It was just not my thing. And then Facebook Live came about. I wrote a big article about it. It had over 6.5 million page views. I launched a course. And was kind of catapulted into this world of live video. Reluctantly, really. You could call me the reluctant live video guy. But I was asked to speak at conferences around the world on this topic. And Facebook Live was how it started with me. And there was a lot of excitement back in 2016 when Facebook Live launched. And yes, there were live video platforms before that. There was Meerkat and I don't know when Periscope started. And even before that, back in the early noughties, live video was definitely a thing then. But my first reason I think people say that live video or Facebook Live is kind of dead or is dying is that, let's be frank, Facebook is a bit of a mess at the moment. It's kind of all over the place. It's still very buggy. I mean, 2016 is when Facebook Live came about, and it's still remarkably buggy. It still has these kind of weird idiosyncrasies, if that's the right word, when you have these announcement posts that get posted on Facebook when you schedule your live video. And comments seem to be all over the place. It kind of feels all over the place. What actually is Facebook? What is Facebook? You've got Facebook groups, Facebook pages, Facebook events, Facebook profiles, and then of course you've got all the privacy concerns and Mark Zuckerberg, whatever you think about that. I'm not going to get into the kind of whole political side of things, but, let's face it, there's been a lot of bad press with Facebook. And then, of course, the younger generations are leaving Facebook in their droves. In fact, they've already left. They're on Instagram, but kind of really it's Snapchat and TikTok is where they're at. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mess. And well, I'll leave the next one just after I have a look at the comments, because I'm going to get into a bit of a rant here. So Paul is saying, Facebook Watch used to be beneficial, but since it went away, I struggle to get anything seen on it. Yeah, Facebook Watch was Mark Zuckerberg's answer to YouTube. But you see, I think Facebook's got a lot of problems. But the problem is Facebook is trying to be everything. It's trying to be all the social networks. We're getting Reels on Facebook now. This is copying from Instagram, which copied from TikTok and made stories and, and Facebook Watch is trying to be YouTube. But like, how many times, if I want to watch a video, I will go to YouTube. It's easier to search for a video on YouTube. It's just, YouTube is YouTube. It's for videos. Yes, it has other things, other elements to it. And so, yes, it's. I think it's a bit of a. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. Carl is in the house and he is watching on YouTube. Excellent. So YouTube is the way. And how ironic, he's saying, I'm watching on YouTube today rather than Facebook. Well, thank you. Thank you, Carl. That's the place to be. Maybe Facebook is demoting this live on Facebook, so nobody's going to be watching on Facebook. That could happen. Yeah, I will visit Paul. Yeah, saying that I should come to Canada. I will. Now, Tim is saying he's saying, ooh, OBS Studio. I haven't used that, but I'm curious. So yeah, check out my episode on next week on this. And it's how I actually got started in the world of live video. OBS Studio is where it started. It's not the easiest live video tool to use. It's definitely a bit geeky, but there's lots of big advantages with it. I personally don't use it very often these days because I think there are other tools out there, but there are plenty of people that do, and there are lots of big advantages on that. So yeah, and Carl is saying that will be a tough topic, Ecamm versus OBS versus free, which is a big difference, and we'll have supporters for each because of that difference. Yeah, and I'm going to talk about the differences between OBS Studio and Ecamm Live in a really constructive way. I have my preferences, but I truly believe the perfect live video tool for you will be different to me. We've got to find the best tool for, our situation. Anyway, back to the topic here, which is about, is Facebook Live dead? So I've talked about Facebook Live as a mess, or Facebook is a bit of a mess. This is the biggie. This is the big one. There is no doubt that pretty much across the board, there are still some very, very successful Facebook Lives. I should not use that word successful because I'm going to talk about this. What do we mean by success? Facebook views have gone down. There's no doubt. Organic views have gone down on Facebook Lives. It used to be the case that Facebook would give priority to live videos. This was back in the day where Mark Zuckerberg was wanting to promote Facebook Lives. He was giving I don't know, was it like $50 million they put towards giving money basically to creators on Facebook Live to promote it, and then they were promoting the live. So it seemed that you went into your feed and everything that you saw were live videos. And so you were obviously going to get loads and loads of people watching. It was, some creators were getting hundreds and hundreds of concurrent live viewers now. And most people these days will be over the moon if they're getting 20 people watching live. And many are getting like 4 or 5 viewers watching live on Facebook Live. Now, does that mean that Facebook Live is dead or it's not useful? I would say no, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit because it depends on what you mean by success. So there's no doubt Facebook views, the number of people watching your live videos live has gone down organically on your page and on your profile. Groups, slightly different, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, another thing, and I wonder whether you agree with me on this. Back in 2016, Facebook Live was new and exciting. And that, again, is one of the reasons why I got into Facebook Live, because it seemed that everyone had access to it except for me. All my American friends had access to it. I live in the UK. I was an Android phone user at the time, and it seemed that everyone had access except for me. So this is why I went sniffing around, trying to find a way for me to be able to broadcast live. And that's how I discovered OBS Studio, which was, there were very few live video tools out there. And OBS Studio was free, and it was, there was no Ecamm, there was none of that back then. But Facebook Live is no longer new. And marketers, business owners, most of us really, we all have shiny new tools syndrome, don't we? And so it's no longer new, but this is also true. It's also a lot easier, and more people are doing it. It's a lot easier with the live video tools that we've got out there. Back in the day, in 2016, it was hard to do well. And you needed to have access to it. You need to have the confidence to do it. You needed to have the tools and the technology to do it. Now it's a lot easier. More and more people are doing it. So it's a more crowded space. I will say, what metrics, though, are we looking at? Are we looking at the vanity statistics? You know, I think we possibly are. So those are my negative views. Those are the reasons why I think some people will say that Facebook Live is dead. What do you think? And are any of those reasons your reasons for not investing in Facebook Live anymore? I'd love to know. Okay, let's look at the positives. Let's look at the future and what I'm thinking about doing for 2022, what my strategy is. Yes, the algorithm has changed. That's the way it is. I mean, you know, Facebook is a private company. They can do what they want with the algorithm. And ultimately, they want to make their feed as attractive to the individual user as possible, because they want to keep everyone in the feed on Facebook as long as possible so they get more money. So the algorithm has changed. But do not despair. You know, we can get really focused on the vanity statistics, which might be the number of views. You might have had, for example, 200 people watching your live views before, but were they actually the right people? Were they actually going to buy from you? Were they going to keep coming back next week? You know, so I would ask this question: what is your why? Why are you going live in the first place? Because the thing is, you might not be doing it for the live viewers. Maybe you're doing it to repurpose your content. And I know a lot of people are doing that. That's one of my big reasons for going live. Community is a big thing. And so I absolutely do want to focus on my live viewers. But the other big reason is that I can repurpose this into my podcast and my blog posts. It's such a powerful thing to think about and do. So I just want to go through some thoughts from my community. We've got Libby Langley, who's actually been a guest on the show, and she says lives are invaluable for my student community, and I do those weekly. So, and I assume that's through your Facebook group, Libby. So Facebook groups are such a powerful part of Facebook, whether you like it or not, whether you like Facebook or not. Groups. There are very few other platforms that have the same kind of functionality as Facebook. Yes, there are some group apps out there, but you've got the community aspect from Facebook. You know, a lot of people are still on Facebook. So yeah, I think that's really important. Now, the next person, this is Katie. Katie Simpson was saying, I think, so this is part of the whole Facebook Live is dead thing. I think it needs to be part of an overall repurposing strategy. More people are going over to YouTube now too. And I think that's right. I see there's a little bit of an exodus from Facebook to YouTube. A lot of people are investing more in YouTube, myself included. That's going to be a big strategy shift for me. LinkedIn as well. Now, I know, Tim, I don't know whether you're still watching live, but now LinkedIn Live suffered from the same issue as Facebook. You know, when I was amongst the first people actually on LinkedIn. There was not many people on LinkedIn Live right at the start, and I had the privilege of being in that first or second group. I think it was in the second group of people that were asked to, that were invited in. And when I first went live on LinkedIn, the reach was amazing and got loads and loads of people watching live. But now it's much the same as Facebook. You know, the numbers are much lower. Actually, I'd be interested to know if anyone is watching live today on LinkedIn, because I don't really invest a huge amount of time on LinkedIn at the moment. And that's a whole other thing I'm going to talk about in a minute. So yeah, think about your why. Why are you doing it? Is it actually to repurpose? Is it to build community? And the thing is, you might not have hundreds of people watching, but if you have 5 or 6 people watching you, they are your true fans. They are people that actually want to hear from you. They've turned up And I would rather have 5 or 6 people, or even 2 or 3 watching, who are my true fans than 200 people who really not that bothered. Having said that, we all want more views. It's that number on the top left-hand corner. Let's be frank, we're all tempted by the vanity statistics. And if you are watching live and you say you're not, you're lying. You're lying. We all want that number to be higher, but we need to think about our why. Now, when it comes to if you do want to increase the number of views, how do you do that? Well, don't just focus on live. You do need to think about an overall strategy on Facebook. And I admit, I'm not an expert when it comes to organic Facebook growth. That is not my area of expertise. And we'll get people on the show to talk about this. But I think we have in the past had people talking about this, some guests on the show. But yeah, focus on growing your page in order to grow your live. So we've already heard that Facebook is no longer promoting your lives or giving it kind of, what's the word? Promoting it over other types of content. It used to be the case that lives were given preferential treatment. Well, that's no longer the case. So think about other things on your Facebook page. Think about photos and images and questions. I mean, Janet Murray does an amazing job. If you want to know about how to create engaging content, then just check out Janet Murray's page. But there are plenty of other people. There's Kim Garst. If you can think of anyone else who does an amazing job on Facebook, let me know in the comments. But grow your Facebook page, think about it in a more of a holistic manner. Don't just focus on live, focus on other things. And actually, one thing that you can do now is you can add your podcast to your Facebook page. I've actually done I've done a YouTube video on this. So if you want to find out how you can add your podcast to your Facebook page, just go to iag.me/YouTube. That's iag.me/YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that. And I think it's my last video, is on how to add your podcast to your Facebook page. So grow it organically. This is the same with LinkedIn. Don't just go live to LinkedIn, which is kind of what I'm doing at the moment. I'm not investing my time in the rest of LinkedIn, which I know I should be doing. Again, this is, you got to start somewhere. So yeah, focus on engaging with other people. You're not just a one-way communication machine. So yeah, really, really important to think about that. Okay. Yeah, don't just rely on Facebook Live. Now we know that, when was it? Like a month or so back, Facebook, in fact, all of Facebook's platforms, or I should say Meta's platforms, so Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, they all went down for a very long time. And I know people that had very important webinars that they were going to be putting onto Facebook, and it was part of their sales strategy, and Facebook let them down. So you shouldn't rely just on Facebook Live. What if it goes down? And think about where your ideal client or audience are hanging out. So some of them might be on Facebook, some of them might be on YouTube, some of them might be on Instagram, some of them might be on LinkedIn. Now, for me, I've absolutely got an audience on Facebook, but I've also got an audience on YouTube, and YouTube is definitely a platform I want to work on. Also, my corporate clients are definitely on LinkedIn, and my solopreneur clients are on Instagram. So in my case, they're actually scattered around a lot, and that's quite difficult to build and grow those communities. But I tell you what, they're not just on Facebook. They're not just on Facebook, and I don't want to just rely on Facebook Live. This is why multi-streaming can be a really good thing to do. Not always. It shouldn't, don't just always multi-stream, but do think about those other networks. Now, this is a particular problem for groups, because I know that Libby, go back here. So Libby was saying, lives are invaluable for my student community, and I do those weekly. So like if Facebook Live, if Facebook goes down, where do you move them? And I know in Libby's case, you've probably got that sorted. You know, there are other platforms, for example, YouTube, which we're going to come on to in a minute. This is a great comment from Mike Alton. He was saying, we stream to multiple platforms. So multi-streaming, which is what I do and many creators do. And the goal is to create great content for the blog and podcast, not necessarily live viewers. So that's not a metric we're monitoring. That said, I'm certainly aware that we don't have a high live viewer count, and that's reflected in the engagement of the videos. And yeah, so for me, that I would agree, that's one of my big things, is to create content. Because I'm a recovering perfectionist, the great thing is I schedule this live, and it means that I'm forced to prepare and create this content. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be done, and then I can repurpose this into a podcast, which is regular, and into lots of other areas. But it's not just for that. I'm here for you watching live and for you watching the replay and the community aspect of it. And I love the comments that come through, and that's a big part of what I do. So views does matter a little bit, but I'm more interested in the people that turn up to my lives. I'm not necessarily, it'd be great if I had 200, 300 people watching me live, but that is not so important for me. Somebody on Facebook is saying, great topic. Thank you so much, Facebook user. And Dave Brown is saying, OBS is a marvel of ingenuity. It has developed into quite an app. And I think you're right. There's been loads and loads of development out there. Dave says, when Facebook filtered me, I learned to use OBS to go directly to the front of my website. Awesome. I'd love to know more about how you're doing that. But yeah, OBS Studio is great. And so turn up on next Tuesday when I'm talking about these. If you like fiddling around with things, then OBS Studio is great. If you are not so much of a fiddler, then there are other tools out there that are great. Okay, yeah, back to the topic. So where is your ideal client hanging out? Let me know in the comments where you feel your biggest community is, where your community hangs out the most. Is it Instagram Live? Is it Facebook? Is it TikTok? Is it LinkedIn or YouTube? Now, Instagram is a funny one because Instagram is mobile only. There are technically ways you can broadcast from your computer to Instagram Live, but I would not go down that route. You're going against the terms and conditions because they don't allow, there is no open API for Instagram, and they could shut you down. So don't do that. But Instagram Live you have to have a separate strategy for Instagram Live. And I'm wondering whether I want to do that next year or not. I would love to know from you. What do you think? Would you be interested in me going live on Instagram? Certainly it allows me to, it would allow me to create more kind of raw and authentic lives. I mean, I prefer to go live on my computer, but it would certainly allow me to do that. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Micah is in the house. Great to see you, Micah. YouTube is acting up. Can you do a new live stream? Oh dear. Well, it should be working. What's going on? Is it being dodgy at the moment? Let's have a quick look, because I've never had any issues with YouTube before, YouTube Live. I'm just going to mute my tab and then quickly go on to... it looks okay. So... anyone else having any problems on YouTube? Seems to be okay, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you just need to refresh it and or go over to a different one. But I don't. So yeah, and one thing I don't like to, unless there's a complete emergency, I don't like to stop my broadcast and restart it, because it just means the whole thing is gone and I have to start again. It just makes it a bit more difficult. Trick My Life says, I'm going to be posting a lot about that stuff, about how to use OBS for those clever things. Follow. Ooh, I would like to know a bit more about what you're thinking about there. Yeah, I need to spend more time with OBS Studio, but that's not the topic of today. That's next Tuesday. So the next thing I want to say is, don't just live stream. think about your community. Focus on growing your community. Now, yes, live can be part of that, but remember you need to engage with people as well and post other types of content. I'm going to say something kind of, I don't know whether it's shocking, but I want to admit something, because actually my preferred content for me to consume personally is not live. Yeah, I very rarely have the time to jump onto a live show and be there in the comments. Now, I do that. I try and be there for my friend Jeff on Fridays with his social media news live show, and actually that's at a really good time for me. I'm usually chilling out then, but often I just don't have the time. I'm just at this time in my life when things are busy. I want to spend time with my family in the evening, and I'm busy during the day. So, and there will be other people like that. So you need to create content that is going to be in the right format for your audience. And that might be podcasts, it might be blog posts, it might be live. And so creating all of this content is going to be important. Some of your audience might not want to be on Facebook, they might want to be on YouTube. So it is more work, but it is easy to do if you multi-stream and if you think about content repurposing. But back to the community thing, use Facebook groups. Facebook Live on groups is really powerful. But also, if you are on YouTube and if you have over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, you can use the community tab, which is kind of like a group or kind of like a page. So you don't have to post you don't just have to post videos. You can post images and just text posts and engage with your community. So that's something that I definitely want to do next year, is grow my community on YouTube. I've also said embrace Instagram Live as well. I haven't quite worked out the best way of doing that in my strategy for next year. I want to be careful in the content that I create. For example, Monday is going to be YouTube video. Wednesday is a raw podcast. Friday is a big day because that is the podcast, my blog post, my newsletter, and of course Tuesdays and Thursdays are live videos. So I just want to be careful that I'm not overloading myself, but if I can fit Instagram Live into that, I will. Let me know what you think about that and whether you'd be interested in that. Now, we're almost at the end. Multi-streaming. I want to talk about multi-streaming. Multi-streaming is great, but now I would love to know from you what you think about this. How would you finish that sentence? Now, multi-streaming is one of those cool and exciting things. It means you can broadcast to all those different destinations all at the same time. That's what we do in this show. But honestly, if I was doing another type of show, like a community building show, I might not go live everywhere. I might just go live to my Facebook group or maybe to YouTube as well, because I want to make my community feel special. Or might be Instagram Live, and it has this more of a unique, intimate experience. So actually moving away from Facebook, going to maybe Instagram or LinkedIn Live or another place, and just broadcasting there, I think is a good thing. And I'm going to be doing more of that next year. I will continue to multi-stream. I do think that multi-streaming is great, but don't just do it for the sake of doing it. And then the final thing I want to talk about, I've talked about creating those community lives, but at the end of the day, I think professional setup, like what I've got today, nice microphone. I think audio is really important. Camera is important as well. I think people are going to stop in the feed if they see something that looks really, really good. But honestly, the podcasts that I listen to, the live shows that I watch, the videos that I watch, yes, they have real value. They make an impact on me in terms of like learning new things. But honestly, it's the shows where the person is being real and honest and transparent. I know it's an overly used word, transparent and human, and authentic, you could say vulnerable. I know these words are overly used, but I think we all as humans, and particularly after the pandemic, we all want to connect on a deeper level with other people. And that was always what I wanted to do on this show. I don't think I've done a great job at that. I think I have on certain broadcasts. And to be honest, not all, sometimes like if it's a really value-packed one, then it doesn't make sense to kind of go all kind of touchy-feely. But I do think getting to the deep human level on lives is what makes them attractive to people. Being you, stop hiding behind the facade. I just see this so often. So be real, connect with your audience, and they will come, and they'll come back each time because they will resonate with not just your message, but with you. Empathy is such a strong thing. Don't know what you think about that, but I think that's important. And that's not a Facebook Live is dead kind of thing. But I think that is the shift with live. I think we've got too focused on the tech and the professionalism, which I don't get me wrong. This is what I teach, and I think it's important. But ultimately, it's that real human connection. I think that's important. Now, Carl I think he's got a great point here. The problem with multi-streaming is that if you have a private group and they are commenting, the names will not show up if public channels are also in the stream. Now, that's an interesting point. So I haven't tested this for a while, Carl, but as far as I'm aware, the issue is not so much that. The issue is with third-party tools. So if you're using a tool like Ecamm Live or Restream or whatever, and you're broadcasting to a group, Facebook will not send any kind of private information to those third-party tools without the permission of the person involved. So if you, Carl, comment on one of my Facebook Lives in a group, Facebook will not give your name and your photo to Restream or Ecamm or any of those platforms unless you have given permission to either Ecamm or Restream. And so it's not so much if you are multi-streaming, it's just using a third-party tool. That's my understanding. And so even if you were to broadcast directly to your group from Ecamm or Restream or whatever, you'd still have the same problem, which is kind of annoying. But that's just a privacy thing. Well, I think that is it for this week, and I'm excited about this. I think this is a new opportunity for all of us. I think we've just kind of been sleepwalking for too long, and Facebook Live is not dead, but it has definitely changed, and it's not what it used to be. It's not got the backing from Facebook that it used to have. We're not getting the same number of views. Yes, we all want views. It makes us feel good, let's be frank, but at the end of the day, we want real people. We want real people. And so don't get hung up and stuck on the vanity statistics. We need to think about the statistics that actually matter. And that will depend on the kind of business that you're running or the reason why you're going live. But I want you to think for next time. And if you're listening to the podcast, we're already in 2022. But you should still be thinking about your strategy and what that will be. And think about other platforms. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just focus on Facebook. Focus on some of the other platforms as well. But that's it from me for this week. Do check out next episode. So if you're watching live on Tuesday, it's going to be next Tuesday. It's all about OBS Studio and Ecamm Live. It sounds like that's going to be a very exciting topic. We've had loads of comments about that today. And of course, that will be next Friday if you're listening to the podcast. The podcast is at iag.me/podcast, iag.me/podcast. And that's it for this week. So until next time, I encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Make sure you subscribe at iag.me/podcast so you can continue to level up your impact, authority and profits through the power of live video.
And until next time,
Toodaloo.